Bellular has started a brand new YouTube channel. It is called Bellular Gaming, and you guys are like, but his old channel was called Bellular Gaming. Yeah, that channel is now called Bellular Warcraft, and that's where he talks about lore and other stuff around World of Warcraft, which, by the way, there's a couple of videos from on there that I also want to check out, particularly the second part of the boosting stuff. Wait, is that on that one or is it in the news channel? I don't know, but I want to see the Bellular boosting video on World of Warcraft, but he made a new video on this new channel, which is about his Final Fantasy XIV journey. And I'm very curious to see what that video is looking like. I believe that in the thumbnail it said something like 50 hours of Final Fantasy XIV. Let's see what he's got to say. Also gives me an excuse to talk about
it's time
14.
for a new channel. You're going to get a lot of MMO content on here, even sorts of things we've never done before. But enough of that. It is Final Fantasy XIV time. Because it looks like Matt got Asmongold and myself both. I've kind of dallied about for sure, but now it's time. This is my Final Fantasy XIV experience. FF14's introductory experience is okay. I can see why some people bump off it, but it's not a problem for most of us because we end up coming to FF14 with the wind of our friends' recommendations at our backs.
I don't really think, again, this is the whole thing about Realm Reborn. I don't really think Realm Reborn is that bad. Like, I see people trashing Realm Reborn all the time, and it's like, I don't think it's that bad. Not on the level that a lot of people say it is, right? There are a couple of things. I mean, there used to be some things which have actually been somewhat streamlined, like before they did the streamlining on some of the Realm Reborn quests, like the pre-Titan quest. Okay, that was an ordeal. That was an ordeal, all right? But like after that, most of the stuff I thought was fine. Even the post-Realm Reborn quests, personally, I actually like them. I mean, you know, of course, there's a couple of them that's just like, okay, go from A to B, deliver something. But the story that is told and basically the planting of the seeds, as people in my chat used to say, the planting of the seeds is so amazing that I just feel like the rest of the game would not have as much of an impact without that. And maybe even those quests have acted as a filter that has kept the community maybe even in a better spot. Who knows?
So where for some, eyes could gloss over lots of text, well, for me they didn't, right? Most of us paid attention because we would know that it would build somewhere. And even before my first steps into Heavensward, I can tell you that, yeah, it does indeed build. The combat is slow at the start. The stakes are smaller, but
combat could be done better for sure. Combat, you know, we could get to use some abilities a little bit earlier, and you know, combat could definitely use a little bit of a tune-up. But again, not a big deal.
There's detail there to appreciate. There's a world to soak in. Take The Expanse as an example. I love the TV show. It's got a lot of dense world building during its first season, but by the end of season 1, well, its pace hits. The pieces come together, and then it hits its stride. And from what I can tell, FF14 is kind of like that. You do have to put in that extra work and that extra attention to the details early on, but if you do, you're rewarded. This is the anti-spam quest text game, so if you're willing to meet it at that pace, then your chances of having a good time, I think, are pretty damn high. Now for me, the initial MSQ and Archer job quests were, while not thrilling, certainly compelling enough. You know, there was constant hints of there being something far greater, all of those Heidelin teases. It's like, interesting. So,
try playing a paladin.
Had me pretty excited.
You're gonna love those job quests, the best.
12, 13, 14. So how did things go when the game really started to branch out? Okay, it's time to talk about the narrative of FF14. You leave your starting experience with the reinforcement of the Garlean Empire as a looming threat, and compared to the quite a bit more peaceful forests of Britannia where I started, well, they did seem like a foe worth fearing. Of course, knowing of FF14 legacy and what's covered in the opening cinematic, you know, you'll kind of understand a little bit more there, and you'll be kind of excited to see these big cheesy villains. Now from here, the main narrative flips between dealing with the emerging primal threat and then the Guardian Empire. Of course, I'm going to save the details and not do spoilers, but suffice to say, during this, the gang comes together, right? Square Enix successfully nail that sense of threat, and they do a real good job of taking you around EORZEA, slowly building up that world, making those city-states feel like places. And there's good and there's bad here. The pacing really does dip, and some bits are a bit of a slog. Take that Costa del Sol segment. You should probably know it if you've played the game. It's just okay, it can be a bit jarring. It's one of those bits your friends tell you about.
It used to be worse. Okay? It's not even as bad now.
You know, the filters of ARR, as the community calls them. But in the ARR patch content, I actually went back to one of those Costa del Sol characters. I met them again, and it felt great, because the growth that my character had experienced was totally recognized in a few neat lines of dialogue from that NPC. Made the world feel a bit more real. And while I'm sure many of these pacing problems could be fixed up in a rework, I also get why it is this way. For me, what mattered was the payoff, and I did get that. I actually felt I understood how this world came together, how I fit in this world. But really,
isn't it amazing that someone can actually make an amazing narrative in an MMO? Isn't that amazing? An actual story that is told inside the game. Revolutionary.
It wasn't until the Garuda cutscene that it all clicked. A bit like that moment in The Expanse again, where the crew of the Rossi and Miller finally meet up in Season 1, you know, where the plot points converge, the pace quickens, and bam, you are in for that great stretch of narrative. Now, is the voice acting great? Gods no. Please, I never want to hear a word of pre-Heavensward Minfilia again. Is the voice acting consistently used? No, it is not an ARR. Yeah. But does it somehow still manage to be more than...
It's also not consistently used in the other ones. It's, you know, it's like there's some quests that don't have voice acting. Usually the main story quest will have it, but there's plenty of quests that don't.
The sum of its parts? Yeah, it does, and some of the characters I do like well enough. Does it do all of this while setting up enough of the world to have you interested in what will happen next? Yes. When the Ul'dah refugee crisis began in the ARR patch, MSQ, I was pretty engaged and interested. What they really nail, though, is you, because you are the chosen one. And it's pretty damn clear from the start, unlike in World of Warcraft, where you sort of assume the role of the chosen one on a per expansion basis.
We must heal the wounds!
Very little character continuity between them.
Heal Azeroth's
main
wounds!
Characters you kind of forget who you are. It's weird. But in FF, it's a role you grow into, and as you do, the world recognizes you. And I could talk about this in an MMO context all day, but you feel, very fucking unsurprisingly when you think about the game's title, you feel like a core character in a JRPG. It's almost as if this is in fact a Final Fantasy game. While ARR does not best the single-player entries in the franchise, people tell me Shadowbringers does.
Wrong! Wait, no. He said Realm Reborn. Never mind.
And I can totally see it going that way.
Heavensward does.
Now, story-wise, much is told through cutscenes and dialogue. Dialogue is where you are talked to directly. Your character reacts to NPCs. So gone is this sort of feeling I've taken for granted in MMOs. NPCs talking at me. And the dialogue itself is usually great. NPCs speak colloquially. You know, Jack or Jackie and his crew of rogues, they're great. They talk like rogues. They swear, slur, and swagger their way through life in Limsa, and they're just a great bunch. Not at all like the ninja I'd go on to meet, or some of the proper stuck-up elves, Elzen even. And then the Lalavells, they may be these...
I like that he said stuck-up elves. Those Elzen are stuck up, and you know it. You know it. Don't lie to yourself. They are stuck up. Pointy-eared bastards.
Wee folk, but they're not written that way, that's for sure, and they're quite fun. So really, what else is there to say here? Like, awesome. Your character actually feels like a character that knows the other characters, and you're going through a journey together. It's all believable in the world, it's immersive. Now, to be fair, you can certainly tell that the realm was reborn while the developers were working on putting Legacy to bed. But even with that, it is more than the sum of its parts. That's the important bit. Just be ready for some rocky pacing, some boring bits, and for setup and world building, that'll only really pay off later. From a content perspective, I mean, ARR questing is very, very, very simple. It mostly boils down to killing a few NPCs, collecting a few items, and really...
And by the way, let me just say one thing, because I'll never get tired of saying this, because I want to make sure that people have the best experience with 14. If you're someone who's getting into 14 by watching these videos or by watching videos for somebody else, what we as the community general recommend is do not tackle questing like you would in World of Warcraft or in other MMOs. Okay, don't just like grab every quest that you can find and then batch complete them in return. Focus on your main story quest and unlockable quests. Okay, I have like a new player's guide in YouTube. If you look for that, I talk about that there in greater detail. But when it comes to quests in Final Fantasy XIV, you want to be focusing on your MSQ. You want to be focusing on your unlockables. You do not want to be, burning yourself out doing side quests unless you're into that. If you're into that, you do you. But pay attention. You can burn out on the game. It's happened to me in 2013, okay?
Often feeling like a visual novel with iffy pacing told through fetch quests. And this is absolutely the roughest part of the game, from what I could tell and from what everyone's told me. Now, there is like a bit of a saving grace. Duties. The solo duties are kind of like the miniature narrative scenarios that WoW has, and they just focus on portraying a scene. And this is where you can tell the devs get a bit more creative and the production values go up. So moments like breaking into an enemy base with Sid, or fighting a spoiler at the end of the Ninja campaign, those are all told through these duties, these sort of story duties. There's, I think, just something to be said about, having a solid in-game cutscene and some really good dialogue, and then going into some pretty good scripted gameplay. And also, you can sometimes die in those if you turn your brain off and spam about. So overall, it's great. Content is simple for the most part. Do not expect mind-blowing questing from the beginning. Take it as going through a fun VN with occasionally fun gameplay segments, all while you're exploring a cool world and getting to know its characters. This apparently does get much, much better in the expansions though, so I'm dead excited for that.
Look at him.
Leveling then, how does that feel? Well, I'd say pretty good. I mean, narrative pacing issues aside, it is all rather smooth. You just follow the MSQ, and you keep up with your job quests. You then have fates in the world. Fates are a bit like world quests in World of Warcraft, but the key thing is the progress is shared and they happen in the world. So they spawn in and out in this player-driven way. And it all feels very cooperative, right? A bunch of you meet up together, defeat the enemies, complete the fate together. I think Guild Wars 2 does a lot similar, and it just made me realize how much Blizzard needs to catch up in the world content front.
Guild
and
Wars
the hunting
2 is
log,
also
I thought
pretty
it was
awesome.
neat. Rather than giving you loads of reasons to just randomly kill mobs, the hunting log is basically just a kill list for each job within a level bracket. Kill a few of each mob, and you'll get a chunk of XP. And the effect of this is that rather than it feeling like a boring kill quest, you're just going from place to place doing the MSQ, but you might have a little deviation from your path to kill a mob and get some extra XP. So rather than random mob kill quests feeling like a gate to the story, they feel like a reward for paying a little bit more attention to your surroundings when you're going around the world. And I thought that was quite cool. Quite a bit more positive, though that system does evolve into something different in the expansions, I believe.
Yeah.
Then there's alt job leveling. It's really well supported in the game, actually. Your alt jobs will actually enjoy an XP boost if they're way below your main job. So just milling around the world doing fates while you're, of course, queuing for roulettes, which is just the leveling via dungeons, do your daily roulettes thing. I mean, that meant that my level 32 transition from Bard to Rogue and then up to Ninja felt really smooth. Plus, it meant that I had another narrative to play.
I think that a lot of people underestimate how cool it is for you to be able to swap your jobs in the same character. Because, I've seen people that they say they don't value this particular aspect of it because they like to do, I want to do a different race for a different job or something like that. And I've seen different arguments towards this. But let me tell you, when you know that the progress that you are doing in one character is never going to be wasted. Because, I look at my own personal World of Warcraft experience where I've played Warrior for the longest of times, and then essentially in a lot of the expansions, tanking as a warrior at the start of the expansion was completely unthinkable. Groups wouldn't even take you just because you were a warrior, and other problems. And some people like to debate me on the comment sections on this. Look, if you did not experience this, just shut the fuck up, okay? Just shut up. Because, forget about it. I'm not even going to argue there. I mean, Blizzard does a terrible job of balancing their characters, and that's just a state of fact. But knowing in 14, for starters, their balancing is excellent. But even if you just get bored of your class, it's not like you have to go back to the drawing board and create a brand new character that hasn't done all of the quests that you've done up until this point, you have to redo all of the quests, and it's going to be boring as hell. At least to me, it's always been like that. Because like I look at all of the achievements, because a lot of the stuff that you do in WoW does not carry over to your alts, which really sucks. So I would always look at my main character where I'd had all of these adventures and I've done all of these different things. And it's like, yeah, but now I'm playing this other character because this other character is actually viable and it's better and whatever. But, I would always be caught thinking, but it's not this other character where I've invested all of this time and then all of these different things, And the fact that in 14 you can just go like, hey, you want to play a healer? Yeah, sure. Just swap things around. Boom, you're a healer now. And it doesn't discard all of the achievements that you've made in your character just because you want to have a different play style. And that is actually amazing. And anyone that thinks otherwise, it's like, I think you just haven't experienced it yet, because it's really, really good to just be able to swap your jobs on a dime. It's fantastic.
And the rogue narrative is great. Lulls in pacing, such as the pre-Garuda segment, certainly detracted from my experience, but for the most part, yeah, I was a happy camper. Gameplay then. It starts so slow. They've really designed this game to be accessible to people who do not play MMOs. That said, job complexity absolutely does grow over time. Hello, Ninja. But it is a bit dull at the start. The 2.
He's 50 hours in. You have no idea, Bellular. You have no idea, dude. You don't even know. Okay, you don't even know. But you learn. Oh, you learn. That's to say, it's like, listen, whenever people start playing 14 and they start going like, combat's so simple, I got bored right away. Yeah, try playing a level 80 class, then come back to me.
5-second GCD, and a sort of slow doling out of abilities can feel rough.
Yeah.
Mobs in ARR aren't that interesting either, and most of the initial dungeons are, while nicely themed, not really super engaging as dungeons. Now where things get better is the primals that you fight. Those give you a taste of scale, and some of the later duties as well in the late ARR MSQ and ARR patch MSQ.
Did you overact? That tank did not have his
really,
stance.
ARR is by far the worst bit in terms of gameplay, and it only goes up from there. With things especially like their encounter design language really evolving and becoming codified as they progress, I believe, through the Heavensward expansion. For what it's worth, the sheer scale of things like the primal fight from Into the Maelstrom, I mean, that was just cool. So overall, it's enough to do me, and from looking at my friends screen sharing their max level gameplay on Discord, I totally feel confident in where things are going. As for the visuals then, well,
those
art direction's
pixels.
Fantastic. Armor design is fantastic with loads of options. It's very different to the likes of WoW stylistically, and that's a brilliant thing. Just a bit more diversity there. While it does fall over...
It actually took me a while to get into the art style of 14. It's weird because you first play it, and it feels a little bit dated, and you're just like, I don't know about this, because World of Warcraft does have that kind of like timeless look to it, and some people will prefer 14's versus WoW. I really like WoW's art style. But having said that, 14's art style grew on me way more by the time that, as I was playing through the game. Because it is one of those things that maybe you look at the art style and it's like, I'm just not into it. I'm just not feeling it. And it's like, if you look, here's an excellent example. Look at Asmongold. Asmongold is looking like, oh, dude, I don't know, dude. I don't know. And now he can't stop playing it. It's going to be the same thing for a lot of people if you just give it a chance. Because I also kind of like, I would look at this art style. It's like, I'm not anti-anime stuff. Like, I didn't care about, there's cat girls and whatever. And it's like, come on, dude. Anyone who comes from World of Warcraft to 14 and goes, cat girls, you're a hypocrite. You're just a straight up hypocrite. I mean, just look at the races that you have in World of Warcraft. There's goblins, orcs, cows. There's even like Vulpera now, which are foxes essentially, right? And there's more. There's like other races in there that are just like, way worse than oh cat girls. So it's like, you know, that to me was never the thing. It was just like the actual art style itself. I was like, I don't know about this, but it really does grow on you to the point where sometimes you'll even see something like, I'm talking specifically about like the 5.3 cinematic. Some of you guys will know what I'm talking about with the Crystal Eggs arc. And you look at the pixels like, wow, them some really big pixels right there. But the thing is, they're so confident in their art and in their cinematography that they're like, they don't even care. It's like, no, this is what the camera angle needs to be. I don't care if the pixels look a little bit, you know, if it makes the game look a little bit dated, because the rest of it is just so artistically crafted that it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. And at the end of the day, like I said, it grew on me and now I just freaking adore it. But yeah, that's kind of like, just to give you guys my perspective on the art style of it. It also took me a while to get used to it. But once you get used to it, you're going to love it.
For a little bit in the technical side, like their anti-aliasing implementation kind of sucks. I mean, that I think can be helped with G-Shade and stuff. But yeah, it's that thing where there's a few technical aspects that can be jarring at the start, especially with how good like modern games look these days. But overall, that bit's fine. Good art direction is what's most important, and that really is what they do have. Also, a zone design thing. They feel open. They feel like real places, instead of tightly crafted, ultra-dense gameplay levels. And that's something I had found a bit frustrating in some of the modern World of Warcraft world content, and I kind of missed from its older days. So, that's all good too.
Yeah, like I remember for a while, most of World of Warcraft zones, they just kind of, oops, I made a mistake, sorry about that.
Frustrating in some of the
Yeah, I remember that for a while there, a lot of World of Warcraft zones almost felt like, oh, here's like, if you really boil it down, it would be like, here's a wall of mountains that just like keep you inside this place. And then sure, in there they have like their mountains, their different structures and whatnot. But if you would go to the edge of the zones, it would just be like, here's a wall of mountains. Here's a wall of mountains that separates this zone from the other zone. We don't want you going to the other zone yet. Or in the case of Shadowlands, like, here's an island. It's like, boom, here's one island. And then if you go to this other place, there's another island. It's like, it's 4 islands connected by a central hub. And then there's an island at the bottom, which is the mall, which sucks. But yeah.
modern World of Warcraft world content, and I kind of missed from its older days. So, that's all good too.
Ooh.
A quick note then on player expression. I really can't say much about this because I've had such a limited perspective. Yeah. But I will say this, my trips through Limsa often take far, far longer than they should because I'm, checking out people's armor, seeing what they're doing. Now, the glam system is not as slick to use as WoW's transmog system from a UI perspective.
World of Warcraft's transmog system does not straight up win. I want to make that perfectly clear because here's the thing. The biggest problem with the Final Fantasy XIV's transmog system is what you're seeing on screen right now. And that is this right here. 399 out of 400. So this is the maximum items that you can hold for transmog. That is the biggest problem. See, in World of Warcraft, whenever you pick up an item and you like equip it or whatever, whenever that item becomes soulbound to you, you unlock that item. And you can just like transmog your appearance to that item and boom, done. Like, that's it. That's all you got to do, right? So the part of actually collecting the transmogs is 1,000 times better than World of Warcraft, hands down. But the part of actually applying the transmogs, Final Fantasy XIV does it 1,000,000 times better. I don't give a fuck what people say. Final Fantasy XIV, when it comes to actually applying the transmogs, does it 1,000,000 times better. Because you know what you can do? You can come over here and you see these things over here, glamour plates. You basically pick from the items that you want. You create like the set that you want to do, right? Then after you create that set, you save it to a glamour plate. After you save it to a glamour plate, any time that you are in a town, you just basically go like, apply that glamour plate. Boom, done. Your transmog gets applied to your character. You replace a piece of armor, you go back to town, apply a plate. Boom, done. Doesn't cost you any gold, doesn't cost you any currency. You just go there and you apply plate. Now, it costs you currency and it costs you like dyes and stuff like that when you're creating the plate. But after you created the glamour plate, you can just sit there and hit apply. Boom, done. So long as the items are compatible with your character. Because, if you're a bard, you're not going to be able to, like, equip plate armor, which I don't know if it's the same thing in World of Warcraft or not. I haven't done too much. I'll be honest, I played a ton of World of Warcraft. I never engaged too much with the transmog system. Definitely did that way more in Final Fantasy XIV, interestingly enough. But, because in World of Warcraft, you're supposed to go to, like, the Void Dude, and then you can create templates at the Void Dude as well. But every time you go there, he's going to charge you. Someone like me, I suck at making gold. Okay, I suck. It's a fact of life. And it's like, guys are going to go like, yeah, that's because you're supposed to buy a WoW token, dumbass. It's like, yeah, I know. But I'm not going to give money to Blizzard to buy a fucking WoW token. It's not going to happen, okay? And I suck at making gold. So every chance that I have of saving gold, I'll be like, I won't even transmog if you're going to charge me for it. Screw it. I won't transmog. I won't do it. So, it is what it is. But, yeah. So even though collecting is better in World of Warcraft, actually applying a transmog set is a million times better in 14.
But the armor sets that are being glammed are really fantastic, and the game also has dyes.
Oh, and the armors are just better too.
The game's also just seemingly got such a wide variety of outfits and mounts, and they seem to be fine with letting something be a bit silly in the name of fun and player expression.
Imagine!
And this just leaves its mounts and glams being cool. Just wait till I get stuck out into, kitting out my apartment, right? Or property spending time in our FC house, which the guys have decked out completely. I mean, that will be fun. While not exactly my thing, I couldn't not mention G-Pose here. It's something I look at from the side, and I think it's cool.
G-Pose is so good. I barely use it properly. Like, I would use it to do thumbnails for 14 and stuff like that, but G-Pose is chef's kiss.
Cool. So between it and the potential of the glams, FF14, it's made things like fashion mags and sites like EORZEAcollection.com exist. I mean, a guy in my free company is a nightclub bouncer in the game in his free time. John, on our team, has probably edited this video too. Hello, John. He's been spending some of his time making music on Bard. It's just cool even seeing bards just around the cities playing music. The game just feels very open.
Even though a lot of those bards actually use like third-party apps to play the music for them, but it's cool when you have someone that actually plays the music.
And expressive.
Because you can just straight up play music in 14. There's actually a system, as you can see right here on screen. It's exactly like this in-game. This is an in-game interface. This is not like some third-party add-on or some bullshit. This is an actual in-game interface that you can only get if you level up a bard. But the good thing is everyone can level up a bard, and you get it fairly early on. So it's just like, once you unlock your bard, boom, you get this perform thing, and you can just play instruments. It's really cool.
And I really like that. That stuff's not exactly my gameplay style, but being in a world where that's
and there's
really
bands,
strong,
yeah.
That's, I don't know, is it positive? Is it aspiration? It's like even if you don't engage, the world is better for its existence, and you exist in that world. Patches then. I'm in the ARR patch MSQ at the minute, dealing with Ishgard, so it's totally setting up the Heavensward expansion. And it's exciting. Now what's been neat to see is the general increase in quality. It's almost as if, with these patches, they weren't
Dude, the quality of Endwalker cutscenes. I think it's gonna blow everybody's minds, because like just the evolution that we've seen of the cutscenes that they've done in Shadowbringers, it's insane. Like if you haven't played through Shadowbringers, let me just assure you, it's literally insane. Okay, like these cutscenes, the quality on these cutscenes is fucking mind blowing for a game that came out in 2013. Okay.
Rebuilding the game while also maintaining the legacy version. The newly cast voice actors, like for some of the Ishgardian characters, they're far, far better. There's also more voice acting. The plot lines feel more tight and focused, there's less padding, the new characters are great additions, and it just feels better. The pacing is better, the narratives are just better executed. So I can just tell that this is where the team is beginning to hit their stride. So I guess no wonder all of the memes that people have about Heavensward. Getting hints as well at more proper boss fights has been quite fun too in these quests. I mean, sure, they don't have their boss fight language like super well worked out, but I'm beginning to feel like what a more proper MMO boss fight is in FF, and honestly, a part of that too has been that it's just been refreshing to jump into a boss fight with no add-ons. And even hearing some WoW Mythic Raiders
imagine! Oh, God, this is one of the things that I love, because, like, here's the thing, right? So many people, so many times, like, when they're talking about Final Fantasy XIV, what people tell is like, oh, it's the best story, and it is. And it is. 100% it is. But a lot of people don't give enough emphasis to the quality of the rating in Final Fantasy XIV. So let me just go ahead and break it down for you, okay? Rating in Final Fantasy XIV is actually better than rating in World of Warcraft. Try rating in World of Warcraft without fucking deadly boss mods. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah. Tell me how it goes for you. Tell me how it goes for you. You want to know why? Because the World of Warcraft team cannot properly communicate mechanics to you, which is something that the Final Fantasy XIV team does amazingly. Like, I have done every single raid on normal. I haven't really done Savage or Extreme content. Normal raids are not super challenging. You know, I would say they're not really on par with the difficulty of normal raids in WoW. I would say they're like a step above in terms of difficulty. And I have done all of those raids in a pug environment without any voice communication whatsoever. And you guys are like, oh, they must be easy then. You don't even have to talk to people. It's super cakewalk. No, you are 100% wrong. The difference is that they know how to communicate mechanics to players. And so players that actually played through the game, unlike someone who was confused about some heals or whatever in one of the fights, like eels. And I'm just like, I don't see any eels on screen. Maybe that was the problem. There weren't any eels there. But anyway, this person couldn't find the eels, right? And if he had maybe played through the actual game and experienced the raiding content, then he would have known how the mechanics work and all of this stuff. Because anybody who does, you're going to be able to just like jump into a pug for a raid and you'll understand what the mechanics are. Sure, you can wipe a couple of times. That's normal. That's to be expected. And people just tell you, hey, listen, here's the mechanic where you messed up. Here's the thing. Most of the times people will tell you that. Not out of spite, not out of malice. Most of the times it's actually pretty positive. At least so far, that's been my experience with 14. So, you know, the raid encounters in this game are actually really, really good.
About banning weak auras after they've hopped into FF14, I mean, you can certainly understand that, can't you? Still, I'm in no position to compare the two games' raid content just yet, other than...
It's better, Bellular, don't worry about it.
Excited to do both, even. So, to conclude, I'm in. I hope I'll be able to finish Shadowbringers by the time Endwalker comes out.
Nope.
But, I mean, I sure as hell didn't rush.
At the pace that you are going, nope, not going to happen. Unless you put more time into it, 100%, 10,000% not going to happen.
Rush through ARR, did I? I kind of refuse to treat this game like a job and push
That's
through
the way to do it.
You know, push through it for content. So I'm going to keep going at my own pace.
Good.
Certainly, I definitely want to play a lot more. I'm just enjoying it as I go. So hopefully I'll be there at cap, ready to jump into Endwalker with the rest of you. But even if I'm not, well, I am playing the content at my own pace, and I'm happy to. That's one of the things people really love about FF14. It doesn't feel like it has that feeling of rush. And for the leveling and questing bit, WoW doesn't really either. I think the difference is that FF14's questing is telling one big, gripping story masterfully through multiple expansions, whereas WoW...
I disagree here. He's saying that World of Warcraft leveling doesn't feel like you have to rush to endgame. Are you kidding me? Chromie literally kicks you out of Chromie time whenever you get to like 49 or whatever. She just goes like, okay, hey, listen, I know that I'm like the ancient dragon of time or whatever, but listen, your time's up. Get the fuck out. Get your ass back to battle for Azeroth. It's time for you to level up and then get your ass to the Shadowlands. The game itself does this to you. So yeah, there's 100% a rush. But even if the game didn't do this to you, Blizzard themselves have basically promoted the way that their game works is like, listen, all of this old content, all this stuff, this doesn't matter, okay? You want old? We got another game for you. It's called World of Warcraft Classic, okay? If you're playing retail, all of this vanilla stuff, just like, whoosh. There isn't even vanilla stuff because Cataclysm, right? All of this Wrath of the Lich King stuff, like all of this, I don't even know, like freaking Burning Crusade, just like forget all about that stuff. That doesn't matter. Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, none of that matters. What you want is Shadowlands. That's pretty much how World of Warcraft does it. And even in Shadowlands, when you get to Shadowlands, it's like, listen. You know, this like level from 50 to 60 stuff. Yeah, that's all nice. But what you really want is you want that level 60, baby, because that's when the game really begins. That's when you can really go and do your world quests and do your dailies at the mall. You're going to love it. And because that's just the culture of World of Warcraft. And it actually, I feel like it has trained so many people. And I feel like I say this a lot in my videos, but World of Warcraft has trained so many people to have that mentality, that endgame. That's the only thing that matters. That endgame. Gotta get to max level. Nothing matters before I get to max level. And I'm so happy that when I played through 14, I was like, you know what? Fuck the max level. I'm just going to slowly take my time. And the thing is, this is such a big deal, is that the encounters that you have throughout 14 remain relevant, right? So like you're doing the Ifrit trial, for instance, and it's like you still have to do the mechanics. And you're doing the other trials, you still have to do the mechanics of those trials. Even if the game is currently in Shadowbringers, soon to be an Endwalker, you know, when you're doing trials in Heavensward and Stormblood, it doesn't feel like it's outdated content because they respect their content. They're like, no, the content is here. And there are veteran players still doing that content because they get rewarded for doing that content, for helping the new players along. It's just it's like Matt has said in Bellular's videos, like, it's additive. An expansion should be additive. It should add things to the MMO, not take them away. It should add new things. And that's what they do in 14.
WoW is telling a series of partially related, super speedy fast stories. WoW feels more like I'm playing a game. FF14 feels more like I'm engrossed in a story. So read into that as you may. Beyond that, I just have more faith in the development team. This is a final thing I have to acknowledge. They're better at communicating. They seem to get their player base more. Simply put, beyond playing a fun single-player story, I am beginning to feel just more confident investing my time into this MMO because I trust the track record of those making it. They don't seem to have a track record of dud expansions and big bungles and big problems and big dramas. And sure, I know that people do rate Stormblood as not being as good as Heavensward, but I'm pretty sure people still rate it pretty damn highly. And that is different from the constant back and forth of the WoW expansions where they mess up the game with systems, and then you try, and then they're better by the end patch, and then the next expansion maybe has promise, and it just gets very tiring, and it doesn't seem like that goes on in this game.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I think that explains why a lot of WoW refugees are maybe moving out of their comfort zone and into EORZEA. Maybe they have a bit more faith in it. So There you go. That is my initial Final Fantasy XIV experience. It's been a blast. One of my main goals now is to carve out more time to actually just sit down, chill, relax, play the game, throw it on the big TV, get the big cinematic experience, enjoy the spectacle of the big fights. That's what I want to do. I hope you found this interesting. Let me know what this means for your own decision making with this game. Sorry for being so late, we really were. And I'll see you next time.
That's the thing, though. It doesn't matter whether you're late or not. What matters is that you're here. That's the thing. That's the only thing that matters with 14. It doesn't matter if you come in late, if you come in early. The only thing that matters is that you're here. And I hope that everybody that joins in just enjoys their time. Don't rush to get the Endwalker. Take your time with it. Enjoy every story. I would even advise people to try out the raids. That's what I did. And as you finish through those, do remember I did do reviews my thoughts on each of the expansions at the end of them. So you can also check out my thoughts on those over on the main channel as well. But anyway, for now, that's going to be it for this one. Let me know if you guys liked it or not. Hit the like button, hit the dislike button, whichever one you prefer. If you usually enjoy my reactions, then hit the subscribe and notification bell and all of that jazz. There'll be a link to this video if you want to rewatch it without me blabbering on top of it. That's going to be in the description of this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.